Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome to another edition of Kal's Corner Radio Show here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host, and the executive producer of the show is the one and only Rob McConnell. Folks, as you know, and I say this in every episode because it's true, the purpose of Kal's Corner is to cover essentially everything from politics to the paranormal. That's quite a number of subjects in between there. And while we literally don't talk about everything under the sun in each episode, we have a finite amount of time. This time we're going to talk about politics. And yes, we will also talk about the paranormal. And I will explain by the end of the show why there is a correlation here, a connection. Okay? That may sound a bit weird, but I'll come back to this point. And if I had to choose two words to summarize why they're connected, I would say think critically. Now here goes. In this last week, unless you've been living in a cave, there have been three huge stories. It started to happen over the weekend, then Monday and Tuesday. The three stories were, in this order, that Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller's investigation was winding down. There were going to be no more indictments. That means he's closing up shop. He was turning his report over to the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice would then read that report, issue a summary, and then arrange the more sensitive issue of how to handle its eventual publication. Because under U.S. law, there is no mandatory requirement that Mueller's report would be released. Whether it gets released or not is up to the discretion of not only the Justice Department, but ironically, the President of the United States, who in this case was being investigated along with a whole bunch of people. Now, I predicted, as a longtime accredited journalist, I can say, I told you so, folks. And I want to explain this in a way that you get the right impression. I'm not saying I told you so for egotistical reasons. Let me explain my answer this way. When I elaborate on what I mean by I told you so, when I predicted in writing and published articles in Daily World newspaper, which I regularly write for, of course, I have duties there at that paper and obligations to it. I predicted there would be no collusion. I also predicted, as one of the few journalists and people who listen to the show know that, I predicted Hillary would lose to Donald Trump. I took a lot of heat for that. I was accused of being everything from a neocon to a closet Republican to a Trump supporter to a you name it, nothing positive. And the fact is, I didn't vote for Hillary or Trump. I didn't vote in the election at all. I decided to boycott it. The reason why is because Hillary cheated to try to steal the nomination over Bernie Sanders. I wouldn't support anybody who did that on principle. And I do value principles, contrary to what my critics say. Secondly, I didn't want Trump to be president. I believe that out of a country of some 320 million people, even with all the illegals, which are twice in number as what the Democrats would like to mislead you to believe, that if a country of 320 million people is the world's only superpower, we're talking about the United States of America, my country, mine meaning I'm a citizen of it, born and raised there in the Bay Area, and I would never give up my American citizenship for anything. Well, I believe, as I think I can say that most Americans believe, that if Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are the two best candidates that we could ever run for the White House, we're in serious trouble as a nation. I have never been a Republican. In fact, I often call what Republicans do Rethuglicans because they engage in thuggish behavior. I'm not a fan of Obamacare because I believe in having health care done right. I lived in Europe for 10 years. I broadcasted on Rob's show and in earlier versions of my own show here on this network with Rob from Prague for years. And I enjoyed the kind of, medical programs they have there. It was great. I paid it about $75 a month, flat fee, taken out of my salary, got a medical card. Anything that was wrong, they take care of it. The most I ever paid was $5 as a copayment. And the checks use the term copayment. They use the English term. For 5 more euros, that was the equivalent fee, I could get free dental care as well. Because anybody with an IQ of over 10 knows that good teeth and dental health care is critical to overall health. Duh. So look at Obamacare. Does it provide dental care? No. Has it raised the premiums on a lot of people? My own family members, for example, people I know, tell me that their premiums are $5,000 deductibles before they get any coverage. And that used to not be the case. Obama lied when he said you could keep your health care plan, your doctor. Nobody would take it away from you. No way, no how. So I've never been a fan of Obamacare. I've always been an advocate for doing things right and healthcare right, and I believe that healthcare is a universal right. So when Republicans want to take away your healthcare, even if it screwed up Obamacare, and not replace it with anything better, and take away and penalize you and not cover you at all because you have a pre-existing condition, that is inhumane. I'm sorry. I don't care who you are, what party you belong to. You are immoral in my mind because people have a right to a decent healthcare system. On the other hand, there are plenty of examples being misused by liberal millennials who are saying, let's be socialist. Let's copy Finland. Well, you know what happened to Finland recently, folks? Do your homework, especially if you're a liberal or a young person who's saying, I want socialism. Learn history. Finland's government, which these young people claim is socialist, it's not. It just collapsed. It collapsed earlier this month in March, 2 days essentially after it admitted it had failed to overhaul its healthcare program. And this campaign coming up for the presidency of the United States in 2020, the number one issue in the minds of voters is universal health care and the economy, the divide between the rich and the poor, which is getting worse around the world, where the 1% of the elite own 51% and climbing of the world's wealth. That's not sustainable. And in the middle of all this, you had an election where Trump won The establishment was bucked. Hillary lost despite all those experts proclaiming she was going to win. There was a 96% certainty, quote unquote. It was a slam dunk. Hillary was measuring the drapes of the White House or asking Bill what his recollection was of what their dimensions were. It was going to be a coronation. Remember her slogan, "I'm with her." It was about her, not the United States, not the people. And when I heard Trump's slogan, "Make America Great Again," and here's a guy who has done some really serious ethically and unethical things, and it's beyond dispute. It has nothing to do with Mueller. I've reported on it, as have countless others. There's over 10,000 small businesses that have helped him build his empire that he screwed out of financial money he owed them because he didn't want to pay their bills. He's gone through several bankruptcies. He's had ties with everyone from Russian mafia to money launderers to oligarchs. I mean, there's no question. The U.S. government has known about this. I've written about it. We've talked about it in other shows here. And Robert Mueller at that time was the FBI director. He knew where the bodies are buried. So I wasn't impressed when I heard that there was going to be this investigation, that Mueller was going to nail Trump for all of this. Well, I knew better because I had written an article, and I talked about in an earlier show, where I said point blank that because of the top secret and now leaked, disclosed surveillance operations like Operation Tempora, where all the communications between the United States and Europe and all that are monitored as the signals go up under the Atlantic Ocean and into the UK. They're then monitored by British intelligence. It was actually European intelligence, the Polish and the Lithuanians, who first tipped off the U.S. government, the CIA and the NSA, that Paul Manafort was dirty, that he was involved in Putin's inner circle, that he had been hired as a lobbyist to try to install a Putin puppet into being the president of Ukraine, which they succeeded in. Then there was the revolution later. That ledger was found that supposedly indicted Manafort. Well, now the Ukraine is investigating the claim that someone who wanted to help the Clinton campaign leaked that ledger. So this whole thing gets very, very convoluted. So let me get into it now, because stay with me on this. We all know that, as the famous adage goes, that, it takes a long time to understand nothing. Once again, it is now time to say, I told you so. Where it concerns the issues of media bias, media gullibility, in fact, outright media hatred for American President Donald Trump. And I'm saying this as a journalist, as an American, and as someone who doesn't support Donald Trump. I don't support what the Republicans do. Most Americans agree with the agenda and ideology of the Democratic Party, but they disagree with what the Democratic Party does and how they manage to try to get their job done, because they always screw it up. In fact, the Democrats are very talented about never missing an opportunity to miss an opportunity. Hillary Clinton goes down in history as the person who won the most votes and never made it to be president. Spent over $1.2 billion essentially trying to buy the election and paying off those superdelegates and spending $200 million to fund campaigns that would support her. And she still lost. Well, that takes special talent, and that's why I call the Democrats often dumbocrats, because when Democrats do dumb things, they're dumbocrats, and when Republicans do thuggish things, they are re-thuglicans. So I want to make sure you're clear that there's no victory lap here. There's no ego. There's just the truth. The whole point of even talking about this is to try to learn from it and then apply some very real lessons so this doesn't happen again. And we'll talk about that after the commercial break.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shaman worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Welcome back to segment 2 here on Cal's Corner Radio Show here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Now, before the break, I was saying again that, to be clear, I want you to be 100% razor clear on this. This show is not about taking a victory lap. There's no ego here. The reason I'm happy that I got the predictions right is because it meant I understood it properly. And my honest opinion is that if I can figure this out, and I don't proclaim to be an expert on it. I've never said that. I don't use that term. I don't believe in that. There's a lot of people out there far more with greater knowledge than I have on this stuff. But if they missed it and I saw it, I have to wonder what went wrong for them. And it was almost all of them. And a lot of my friends are journalists. I have a lot of friends all over the world at major media. I've been on a lot of major networks like CNN and Fox over the years. And my fellow journalists, almost to a man and woman, were saying, no, there's no way, you're way out of left field here. And then when it didn't go the way they predicted, like the Mueller thing now, boom, the games begin, the so-called fun begins. So the whole point about talking about this is to learn from it and apply some very real lessons, which now must be heeded, if there's any reasonable chance to learn from what happened. Now, if such a sincere introspection doesn't happen and nobody bothers, then more of these inexcusable mistakes will be made in the future. And now that Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller's report claims that no evidence of collusion with Russia, now let's be clear, along the lines of some sort of quid pro quo, like we'll help you win the election and I'll do a favor for you, and once I'm in there, I'll drop the sanctions in Ukraine and we'll be buddies again and we'll make all this black money, etc. Whatever fantasy you wanted to think of was going on, that Trump hates America, that he was committing treason. Well, again, almost all of the media and talking heads were wrong. But what is more important, why they were wrong is really the issue here. And the reason it is the most important aspect is because understanding the why of something is almost always, without exception, the most important thing to know in life. Now, look at this. We don't have the Mueller report yet, but honestly, when you step outside the emotion and the rhetoric and the bias of these reporters, networks like CNN and liberal-leaning left-wing networks like MSNBC and journalists like Rachel Maddow, were the so-called facts really as major media entities like CNN and others had repeatedly claimed? The blunt answer is absolutely not. It's not that they were, but they got it wrong. There were plenty of examples where it was absolutely not true. In fact, some of it was outright lies. In fact, several major claims by many of the big media entities were either outright sloppy and inexcusable reporting, driven perhaps by emotional bias, hatred for Trump or whatever, or again, outright lies. And I'm just going to give you a few examples here. And I'm sure if you look enough, you'll be able to Google by now. It's been a few days where everybody can look back and lick their wounds. You can probably start getting lists together of all the major stuff that they blew it. And that list will not be complete until the Mueller report is declassified and released to the public, or released to the public. It's not really classified other than confidential right now. So let's quickly talk about CNN. I've been on CNN, was on Larry King Live, solving JFK's assassination. We talked about that in one of the early episodes of this show when it was relaunched from Abu Dhabi in the Middle East. But CNN today is not like the CNN it used to be. And I know that because I saw its change for the worse over time from Europe. I stayed in touch with people at CNN, and I'm going to share with you a very quick short story and why this is relevant today. I was again on Larry King Live on November 22nd, 1993, on the 30th anniversary of Kennedy's murder. I debated Gate and Fonzie on that show. It was a live debate, live audience worldwide. They phoned in, of course, on the phone. And Gate and Fonzie was the former chief investigator for the House Select Committee on Assassinations, who had concluded, by the way, that Kennedy was likely killed as a result of a conspiracy, that there was a second gunman on the knoll, that he likely fired a pistol but missed the fatal headshot, but there had been a second gunman and he used a pistol. And I was on that show because I had solved Kennedy's murder. I replaced Gerald Posner, who had originally been on that show. He had written the best-selling book Case Closed at that time. And what CNN did is they investigated my investigation, which took 16 years to do. What made my investigation unique and historic, even though it happens to be me, it would be historic if anybody else had done the same thing. I simply took all the best-selling books ever written on Kennedy, have them all in my library, including original printings of the Warren Commission report, and I created a series of FileMaker databases. I was working at Claris at the time. They made FileMaker. Duh, hello. And after I input all the text, scanned it in there, OCR, optical character recognition technology, I began to use the power of the database in my mind and think critically and drill down into it. And I found out almost immediately that one of the biggest problems with these Kennedy assassination books, not coincidentally, is the same problem with a lot of UFO books. Circular references. A book claims this. Maybe there's a footnote if you're lucky. You run down that footnote. Oh, it references another book. Okay, so you go to that book to verify that that's really done accurately. Oh, it references another book. And by the time you drill down to X number of books later and you finally are able to locate, if you're damn lucky, the original source, then you find out it just wasn't true or was never said or didn't exist. And that happened repeatedly. And then the breakthrough moment, as I explained in one of the earlier shows on Kennedy's assassination, which you can see if you go to the archive of these shows that Rob puts up on Spreaker.com, on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and so on. Look at the Kennedy assassination episode. It goes into detail. You will see that the breakthrough was when I found the moment that the lapel flipped up on Texas Governor John Connolly's suit in the Zapruder film. Now this is frames 223, 224, and 225. We must remember that that camera was filming at about 18.3 frames per second. Okay, so 3 frames is a very short period of time. And the right lapel of his suit flipped up and down because the bullet had entered his back and exited out below his right nipple. It had already gone through Kennedy. You can see Kennedy's already grabbing at his throat. And that established the timing of the second shot. The so-called magic bullet myth was destroyed. That was a cynical, calculating lie, which is still repeated today by conspiracy nuts like Oliver Stone, whose work has been discredited by people like me. One of Stone's key witnesses, hyped by UFO conspiracy nuts, we must remember, because they believe in a lot of conspiracies other than the so-called cosmic Watergate, which is a joke. Jean Hill was supposedly the magic witness who was a lady in red who took photographs, or was standing with her friend Mary Mormon, who took photographs as the limousine went by, and she said she saw the second gunman, chased him across the way, saw red drops, which she thought might have been from a snow cone. The whole thing was made up. If you look at photographs taken during that assassination, she didn't move. She didn't cross the street. She stood there while everybody else ran up to the knoll, and she's wearing a bright red raincoat, and there's no question she wasn't doing anything for even 2 minutes after the murder. She has outright lied, and yet today she is still held up by conspiracy authors like Jim Marrs, who wrote pro-Kennedy assassination books and worked with Oliver Stone, that she's the most credible witness, and yet she was lying. And you can see in the photos she didn't do what she said. She's standing right there. You can't miss her. She's the only one wearing a bright red raincoat. Duh, hello. And yet today, morons and bozos and people who just don't like telling the truth, deny reality, will say, no, she saw the second gunman, chased him, whatever. And it's not true. So in the case of CNN, we have a similar behavior. Its head honcho, Jeff Zucker, ridiculously declared when he was immediately confronted with the bad news that it just wasn't as they had been claiming for 2 years, with absolutely no sense of remorse. After it was announced that no evidence of collusion had been found, he said, quote, "We are not investigators. We are journalists, and our role is to report the facts as we know them, which is exactly what we did." Folks, I'm going to reread that quote again. It's short. "We are not investigators. We are journalists, and our role is to report the facts as we know them, which is exactly what we did." That's a quote from the head of CNN. He's proud of the job they did, even though it proved they're wrong. You got to love the shamelessness there. Zucker is outright lying. CNN did not merely report the facts as we know them, quote unquote. Ergo, it is not going to be possible for the rest of the sentence to be true. It contradicts itself, which says, therefore, that couldn't be exactly what they did. If they didn't do it, they couldn't have exactly done it later because it never happened. Now, what I'm going to do is give you 2 quick examples that prove what I'm saying. Remember, CNN boasts themselves as being America's most trusted news source. That's their slogan. And they really believe that. They're that full of themselves. Yet right-leaning and right-wing biased Fox constantly beats them in the ratings. And what happened was a very interesting phenomenon. MSNBC and Rachel Maddow, her ratings were going up and up and up. The closer that the Mueller report was going to be released, and the Mueller report, and having the initial conclusions of it released, and then when word leaked out that it just wasn't true, this claim of collusion, people tuned into Fox, and they had a 27% jump in their ratings because viewers simply said, "We're not going to listen to you anymore. You blew it, and we were starting to believe you after 2 years of this relentless Trump hating." After the break, I'll come back and prove that CNN has not been truthful. We'll be right back.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by L.A. Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, After the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Welcome back to the third segment here on Cal's Corner Radio Show here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff. I'm your host. And Rob McConnell is the executive producer of the show. Now, I was talking about in the last segment for the break here that I would give you a couple examples of how CNN didn't tell the truth. Let me give you two of them. In May 2018, CNN blasted then Attorney General Jeff Sessions over his failure to list on his security clearance paperwork past meetings he had held with the Russians. Now, the implication by CNN of blowing this story up and making it a big deal was that they implied this was more evidence that either Trump or people around him were all in bed with the Russians, and this would be even the new, Attorney General of the United States. Well, what happened is that the truth was far different. In fact, the FBI had already told him that he didn't need to supply the info. So there was no harm, there was no foul, and there were no Russian ties trying to be covered up. Now, how long did it take CNN to correct their claim? 6 months. Imagine you're CNN and you're making this false claim. You're the one who did it. You opened that can of worms. It's your fault. And it takes you 6 months later to finally get off your you-know-what and tell the truth. Well, they took their time doing it, and they only did it because a lot of people were complaining. And I got news for you, Sunshine. I was one of them. I was calling CNN and saying, hey, I wasn't the only one. In fact, I don't know how many people did total, but eventually it worked. I have no idea if my thing played a role. I don't care. They walked back their story. And when they use that phrase, walk back, it's a phony way, it's politically correct English, for saying you're wrong, but without using the word wrong, because God forbid you should have the moral courage or integrity to just admit straight up that you were wrong. We don't live in that kind of world anymore. If you believe the younger generation that believes that politically correct English is the proper way to live your life, it's not. It's phony. It's nonsense. Now, this wasn't the first mistake by CNN. It was only its latest back then. Indeed, CNN had been blowing it, so to speak, for over a year by presenting countless talking heads and self-proclaimed experts on their TV network who kept doing everything from promising the public that there was no collusion, or that there was collusion, treason even. Remember, they kept calling him treason. Even former CIA Director John Brenner, who I can tell you from my own longtime contacts at the CIA was not well liked. Even he says now, oh, he may have had bad information. Well, isn't that really special that he's saying that? Why doesn't he just say he was wrong? Or why doesn't he just walk back what he said? Remember, Trump was accused of treason and things far worse. Now, the second and last false claim we're going to examine by CNN before we switch subjects to the other two big stories, which will be the rest of the show, in the segments. The other false claim they made was when they claimed to have exposed former Trump assistant, believe it or not, the controversial Anthony Scaramucci. And Scaramucci didn't last long in the White House, and deservedly so. The guy is a complete jerk, in my opinion, and really full of himself, isn't user-friendly, whatever you want to call the PC term. Anyway, he didn't last long. That was a good thing. But they accused him of having ties with the RDIF, which is the Russian Direct Investment Fund. He was never involved in it. Again, how long did it take CNN to apologize to Scaramucci using their standard formula of, template for retraction? Didn't meet our standards, so we withdraw the claim. But let's not, really look at how we blew it and fix the problem. 6 months, folks. And I have to correct myself because I misspoke. I was thinking of the other one. The first example took a few days, but the second one here was Scaramucci, where an individual is libeled and slandered in this way. A false claim is made about him. 6 months. Now, let's be clear as we end this segment here, at least this subject. Mueller's report has not yet been released. The Department of Justice says it will do so soon. They said weeks, not months. I predict that in this next round, after it's out, because the Democrats are now screaming for it, they don't believe the summary that has been released, that no collusion was found, although they want to now look at the other part of the report that says the president is not exonerated on the obstruction issue. So now they're going to try that, see. In other words, this is what you need to look out for. Let's say that when they read the report and it comes out and the public sees it, that the Democrats say, we really were wrong about the Russian thing. In fact, we'll even apologize to you. Let's say they do that. Well, what they're going to do now is then go after obstruction. Because no matter what happens, they want Trump taken out. They want to damage him as much as possible so that they can hope to recapture the White House. It's that simple. And of course, the Republicans, predictably, are using the Mueller report as vindication. Yet at the same time, they're now proposing to take away what little medical benefits you have, not replace it with anything. They've already cut funding for the Special Olympics. Hello? And they're going to, of course, screw voters over too, just like the other party will, the Democrats. They're going to promise the moon, and it won't happen. And people will be dumb enough to fall for it. So that's where things stand on the Mueller thing. We have a rare chance here, folks, the media does, to clean its own house, to look itself deeply inside, go back and get over the fact that Hillary lost, and start doing their job the right way. But instead, they're just going to continue their drama queen ways. They'll roll with it. But then, something happened a day later that, again, was like another blow to these types, especially CNN. I'm not picking on CNN, but they're the most guilty of this. I'm just being blunt. Let's now talk about Avenatti's arrest. Remember the lawyer, Avenatti, Stormy Daniels, the porno star, her lawyer, suing Trump, all that stuff. She dumped him. Well, Avenatti was arrested. He's now being charged for trying to shake down Nike for $20 million, along with his buddy, celebrity lawyer, Mark Garagos. He was implicated in this. He's, of course, a lawyer who represented Michael Jackson over the child molestation issues, which we now know are true. What kind of a person represents a child molester and tries to get him off? I could never do that. I would rather quit being a lawyer than try to defend someone who molests children, especially if I know they're guilty. People might say, well, it's your job to defend him. It's also your job to protect the innocent and uphold justice and truth. And this is why I had a problem with Hillary Clinton apologists when she was a lawyer and she was attacking a rape victim, and she fought to get the rapist a lighter sentence. I was told she's just doing her job. Well, that's the Nuremberg excuse. I was just following the Führer's orders. We know from real morality that an unjustified act can never be justified. A crime is a crime, period. And if that word loses its meaning, there's no point in having any laws. So now Avenatti, who was on CNN and made a major media star by CNN, the guy practically walked on water the way they gave him all this airtime. I saw an estimate about $1.7 million worth of airtime wasted on him. Well, he now can't run for president because he's apparently going to be in prison if he's found guilty. And I believe he is guilty. That's my constitutionally protected opinion. We'll see what happens. The courts will sort it out. And speaking of the courts were denied the chance to sort out the truth about the third biggest story that, again, flattened everybody who has a moral conscience. This Jussie Smollett case, the fake racial attack. Now, Smollett, I believe, is lying when he says it really happened, that I wouldn't be my mother's son if I had lied, blah, blah, blah. Oh, drama queen, stop it. I believe that the Chicago police are telling the truth when they say they have the canceled check he wrote to the two people that were later identified as the ones he paid to beat him up, to fake it. I believe the Chicago police when they say that they found out the whole story from the two men, that they have the phone records because he wouldn't give them to him. He wouldn't show him his phone. That shows that they talked before and after the incident. And of course, material evidence was found at the residence of the two individuals. Case closed. But now you have Smollett's attorney claiming, oh, the attackers wore a white face. Maybe next week they look like Pleiadians or little gray men or little gray leprechauns. Who knows? Now the mayor of Chicago, Obama's former right-hand guy, Rahm Emanuel, or Mr. Rahm It Through, he has said he's going to bill Smollett for the entire cost of the police investigation. God bless him for doing it. I believe the DA who agreed not to prosecute should be fired. She needs to be out of there because if this is her definition of justice, she needs a new dictionary or brain, whatever you want to call it. And when you dig deeper into what happened, why charges were dropped, it turns out that Michelle Obama and her assistant and Jesse Jackson were involved. Chicago remains the most corrupt city in the United States. We'll be back after this break.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
SIMULTV.com.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
SIMULTV.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. SIMULTV.com.
Welcome to the fourth and final segment here on Cal's Corner radio show here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Once again, my name is Kal Korff, and I'm your host, and Rob McConnell is the executive producer of the show. Now, again, with this issue with Jussie Smollett, racial tensions in this country are bad, let's be honest. They were bad before Donald Trump became president. Don't blame it all on Trump. Stop lying or deluding yourself. They were bad when Barack Obama was president. Not because people hated Barack Obama. There were plenty who did. There were plenty who didn't want a black president. But I can tell you, having witnessed this firsthand, there was a lot of racism from the Obama camp as well. I've been a victim of it, and I've talked about it before, and I'll share it with you real quickly for just a short recap here. Then we'll get back to why this is relevant to the Smollett issue. One of my best friends in my whole life has been Bill Marriott. We were hired the same day at Apple Claris. Bill is no longer alive. He's dead. He died a couple years ago. I was the last person literally to talk to him on this planet. Well, Bill was a hardcore Barack Obama supporter. I was with Bill Marriott and thousands of other people, but with Bill specifically, when I saw Barack Obama in person in Prague, when he gave his infamous and now laughable speech, delusional speech, one could argue, that relations with Russia had been reset, and Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. Bill was mad at me because I didn't vote for Obama. He assumed wrongly I was going to vote for John McCain. No, I didn't. I've never voted for a Republican in my life. I didn't vote for Obama because he was only a senator for 2 years. I don't think that qualifies you to be president. And he said he was bored. And Harry Reid, who's now infamous for other reasons regarding UFOs and the current lawsuit going on now with Bob Kiviat, which is now in court because CIA's Pandolfi has been subpoenaed, as the other parties. So this will be interesting in the next 30 days. Anyway, Reid told Obama, run for president then. He did. He didn't expect to win, but he did. Obama was helped by the fact that any credible opponents were taken away as running against him in Chicago. So Obama essentially was handed and designated as the great successor in that area, and he became president. The bad economy helped him. And Bill said to me, as did many other Obama supporters, don't you want to be part of history? Don't you want to help elect America's first black president? I said, no, I don't. I don't care what color his skin is. That's genetics. Anything else is racism. I really don't care. And if you tell me I should vote for him because he's black, no, I'm not going. I'd rather not vote at all. I'm not going to sit there and vote for someone I don't like because I don't want to support a black person. No. If I don't support the person, I'm not going to vote for them. But what color skin they are, I don't care. Now, I told him, you're being a racist. He said, no, I'm not. And I know Bill's not a racist. He doesn't hate any race. I don't either. But the race thing was a big deal to him. And in the marketing shtick for Obama, the change we can believe in, which I said was really going to be more chump change, and hope. I said, no, hope is not a strategy. It's desperation. These shows were recorded years ago by Rob McConnell. I made my views clear. Well, what happened is that's an example of the racism. And to this day, and then you heard this too, if you criticized Obama, you were racist. No, you were criticizing him. I got called a racist for disagreeing with what Obama was doing, for calling him a liar when he promised over 33 times 33 different occasions across the country that if you like your health care plan, you can keep it. No one will take it away from you. No way, no how, quote unquote. I was a racist for pointing out the fact. To this day, I've got Obama supporters and supporters of the Democratic Party who would have anybody from the Democratic Party but Trump, even if it were somebody even worse, it seems, ridiculous thinking, telling me that, oh, Obama didn't lie, he just misspoke. No, the Washington Post, with their fact-checking, called it Lie of the Year, and they were right. Now, what does this have to do with Smollett? Everything. Because Obama's presidency was supposed to symbolize a long overdue moment of reckoning. The shtick was America can finally get past its racism, do the higher moral thing, elect a black guy to be president. Hillary tried the same stick. Break through the glass ceiling. Elect a woman to be president. Who cares that she's a woman, folks? Who cares that a person is black, Chinese, whatever? Who cares? The only thing that matters is that they're human, and they are, and that they're qualified. If they're qualified, anything else is irrelevant. But see, we're not in that kind of society today. And it's disgraceful and disgusting. So when I heard about the Smollett case, I honestly didn't believe it. It didn't make any sense. Chicago, I've been there several times, including when it's the coldest times of the year. People aren't walking around at those times of night in that kind of weather looking to go dump bleach on people. How many police reports have you seen that happening with? Yeah, I thought so. 1, Smollett's. 2, Smollett says he still wants to try to find the guilty people. Well, O.J. Simpson says he's still looking for the killer of his wife, too. But we know Simpson killed his wife. It's a matter of public record that I was an advisor to the Goldman lawsuit against Simpson, which won. I destroyed the testimony of Robert Groden, who was their so-called photo expert. He was JFK conspiracy nut who stole JFK's autopsy photos, leaked them to the tabloids. That's how the American people saw them for the first time. He took the check for that. Broke laws, by the way. He stole U.S. government property. Anyway, I destroyed his claim that the photos of the Bruno Maglia shoes were forgeries. I pointed out a simple fact that in order to see film grain and measure it, it's microns in size. You can't do that with a millimeter ruler. Duh, it's basic physics. So his testimony was destroyed. The Goldman family won. God bless them. But O.J. Simpson says he's looking for the killers too, and we know there are no killers. He's the killer. Now Smollett says, I want to continue looking for the killers. Yeah, right. Well, why don't you start in the mirror? So I support Trump when he says that the FBI is looking into this and that it's bad for the nation. He is right. But look what's happening already, folks, only because it's Trump. There are people who don't want the FBI looking into this. There are people who still believe that Smollett is telling the truth. They're giving him the benefit of doubt, even though objectively speaking, the only way to understand his case boils down to this. Either the chief of the police of Chicago and his investigators and officers and the prosecutors are all lying, and they don't have that cancel check. They are outright lying. They couldn't mistake his cancel check for anything else. And the evidence they've seized and have is all a fraud and faked, which it can't be because the DNA is and fingerprints are conclusive. The only way to explain it is that this is more of a off-the-wall cover-up conspiracy than Roswell, JFK, Illuminati, and every other thing you want to make up. Combine them, it still doesn't equal it. In fact, it violates the laws of physics and nature, just like the O.J. Simpson case did. The O.J. Simpson case was probably the most famous DNA matching case where the DNA matched, but it still didn't matter. The murderer got off free. Disgraceful. Why even have DNA evidence at that point? And the chief of police is right in Chicago. He says the best way to sort this out, to get to the truth, would have been to take it to court. That's why I love Kvyat's lawsuit against Pandolfi and those guys. They're going to be under oath. That's never happened before. And now Smollett may never be under oath. And that's not justice. It's a miscarriage of justice. And it is, excuse this phrase, raping the United States on behalf of the district attorney who decides not to do her job. She should resign. And she says, oh, this is not unusual. We do this all the time. Really? Well, please show me another case that had this nationwide impact, that was this serious, that you made this kind of settlement. The fact is you never have. You are lying when you say that. Oh, and then they say the file was accidentally sealed. Accidentally sealed? How can you accidentally seal a file? Even if you physically zip it up, you can't accidentally do it. When you seal a file and keep it away from the public, you have to have signatures and stamps and approval. There's a chain of command there, folks. But it was accidentally done. And then they said he did community service. What did he do for 2 days? He stuffed envelopes for Jesse Jackson. Oh my God. Is that how community service to repay for your crimes is being defined now? Do you think if white people had attacked him that they were real and they would be allowed to do envelope stuffing for 2 days instead of going to prison? Wouldn't work that way. If they weren't gay, if they weren't an actor, if they weren't friends with Michelle Obama, her assistant, and Barack Obama, it's disgraceful, folks. It stinks. But yet it happened. So here in a row, very rare, 3 huge stories. Boom, boom, boom. 3 right hooks. Incredible lessons to learn. We must learn them, or we run the risk of repeating those same mistakes again going forward, and things are going to get a lot more intense and worse going forward as this election heats up and reality continues to bite people in the butt, where it always does. So it's been blown with both lips here, folks. If we don't turn this around, we have no excuse, and we're out of excuses right now. Thanks for joining me. We'll be back next week. Again, thanks for joining me on this network. My name is Kal Korff. See you soon.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.